Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to all the participants and to our honorable speaker. Okay, so first and foremost, I would like to introduce our honorable speaker for today's session, which is Prof. Dr. Chwen, entitled The Designing Online Learning The Essentials. She is the professor from the Faculty of Cognitive Sciences and Human Development, UNIMAS, Doctor of Philosophy in 2006 in Instructional Design and Technology, Universiti Science Malaysia. She specialized in learning design and technology, involved in various learning technology-related research and development projects for the past 20 years. Recent research focused on the use of concept engineering to uncover the emotions yielded by different types of learning media and using fuzzy analytic approach to uncover motivating gamification elements and learning approach used in the MOOCs. Okay, involved in various research studies related to LMS, the MOOC, the web tools, and virtual reality in education and training. Okay. So without further ado, I would like to invite Prof. Dr. Chen to start her sharing. Okay, Prof, I will share and give you the role first.
Okay, thank you very much to the diaspora for the introduction, and a very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much to also Dr. Maslina for inviting me to give this sharing, and of course, a very big thank to all of you for taking your time to be with me for the next 2 hours. Yeah. All right. So. Is the audio okay? I'm hearing some background noises.
No, okay, yes, okay.
Okay, all right. So today, as mentioned just now, I'm going to talk about online learning design, the essentials. And generally, what I'm going to cover is I'm going to talk about some important considerations, yeah, to design engaging online learning. So before I actually want to start off with my content, I would like to have a little bit of the opinions or input from you regards to creating online learning. So would love to know what actually come across your mind when we talk about creating online learning, right? So I thought that you can actually scan the QR code, or maybe you can go to this URL, okay, on your web browser and put up your whatever that come across your mind. Use maybe 1, 2, or 3 words to describe what actually come across your mind when we talk about creating online learning. All right. So let's do a little bit of activity before I start into the contents. Yeah? All right, can I have your feedback? Okay, I'll start seeing some input from some of you. It talked about synchronous, it talked about blended, and engaging. All right, so any other thing that comes across your mind? When you think of creating online learning, I think this is our responsibility now, right? Where we are asked to create online learning. So what can come across your mind? Okay, we have more here. We talk about engagement. So it's about engagement, right? It's important how to engage our students. Participation is basically on engagement as well, right? When you talk about synchronous, you talk about internet, all right? When you talk about synchronous, you require the internet. You talk about interactive tasks, you know, which is meant for engaging your learner, participation, all right? The basics, all right, I'm not sure what kind of basics that you are referring to. Basics still applies, okay. Gamification, all right, could be one of the teaching strategy that you love to employ in your class. You know, when you talk about online learning, you want to gamify it, all right? And now, oh, okay, I have more here. It seems that a lot of input on creativity. It needs a lot of creativity. All right, okay, some of you may think that that is very important to have a lot of creativity in putting up your online learning. All right, you put up internet again. All right, animation, engagement, blended learning, talking to screen. Yeah, like what I am doing right now at the moment. Talking to screen, yes. Synchronous talking to screen, yeah. Participation, all right, again about participation. All right, so I think generally those are the ideas that you have, yeah, right. So I would say that all the keywords that you have put up here, they are all related to online learning, undeniably. Yeah, they are all related to online learning. So, okay, let me get back to my slide. Okay, thank you for your participation. Right. So, what you all have put up just now, they are all the different aspects of online learning. Okay, but what I'm going to focus today is how I can actually put all these different aspects, yeah, into one whole, yeah, so that we can actually see the whole picture when we want to actually design online learning. You know, what actually should we have in our mind? Okay, what are the types of knowledge that we need to have, yeah, if we were to create an engaging online learning. Okay, so this is the purpose of my sharing here today. Okay, basically is to put up all these considerations and all these aspects, yeah, and hope it will benefit you all. Yeah. So now I think before we move on into the details, yeah, so these are the main elements of online learning. Okay, you all know that in online learning, you will have online learners, of course, and the online instructors is another element. Yeah? And then you will have your curriculum, which is your content. Yeah? And number 4 important element is interactive learning environment, yeah? Which enable the interaction between the 3 first elements here. All right, so this is another element. This is important when we talk about online learning. Now, I have this. I know technologies, hence I know how to create online learning. Okay. Do you agree with this statement? I know technology, hence I know how to create online learning. So if you think it's yes, then you type yes in the chat box. If you think it's no, then you put no in the chat box. Okay, I have a few responses here. Okay, many of you actually said no, no, no. Okay, so far my responses are no. Okay, no one seems to say yes. All right, anyone say yes? Anyone think that is enough just to know the technology and you know how to create online learning? Okay, yeah, another no. All right, so I definitely think that this is a myth. Yeah, knowing the technology undeniably is important. Okay, it's one of the type of knowledge that you need to have, you know, when we talk about designing online learning. Okay, but technology is definitely not the only knowledge that you need to have when you talk about creating online learning. All right, so the question is, what are the essential types of knowledge? Yeah, if you want to create online learning and if you want to create engaging online learning. All right, so I believe many of you may be very familiar with this model, the TPAC model. Yeah, that talks about the different types of knowledge domain that you actually need to have when we talk about creating a technology-based learning environment. In this case, we are talking about online learning environment. So this model TPAC, yeah, talks about 3 types of knowledge that you need to have. Yeah. First of all, of course, you as an instructor need to have the content knowledge. Yeah? You are the subject matter expert, therefore you need to have the content knowledge. Yeah? And secondly, that is important is the pedagogical knowledge. It talks about, you know, what are the strategies, you know, for you to employ in order to deliver the content effectively, because you are the subject matter expert. Therefore, you should know and you should be able to weigh, you know, what type of strategies would be most suited for your subject matter. Okay. And another domain that was mentioned by Kohler and Mishra, the model was actually proposed by them, way back in 2007, is about the technological knowledge. All right, so here you already see that there are 3 types of knowledge that you need to have. Yeah, so definitely the earlier statement that only emphasize on the technological knowledge domain is inadequate, right? Now, this is actually the similar model, but it is illustrated in a more detailed form, where you actually see that the highlight is the integration between or the intersection, yeah, between these domains, yeah, where ultimately what we want to achieve is the integration between the 3 types of domains, yeah, the content knowledge, the pedagogical knowledge, and the technological knowledge, yeah, being woven together, you know, and integrated, yeah, into something that is meaningful in your context. Yeah, so this is what the model is trying to tell us, right? So now, in 2018, okay, about 11 years later, so Colin and Mishra and then added another knowledge domain to this. So according to them, it's not enough to only have the content, pedagogical, and also the technological knowledge, but it is also important to include the contextual knowledge. Yeah, contextual knowledge here basically is the knowledge about the context. Yeah, for example, your students' condition, for example, your faculty policy, your university policy, or even the national requirements of policy, or even the global trending. You know, these are all about the contextual knowledge, yeah, that you need to have, you know, that actually affect the design of your online learning. Okay, so that then you can see that the model is being expanded, yeah, by including another knowledge domain. Okay, so that was in 2018. In the same year, Jones somehow she proposed another dimension, which is called the cognitive knowledge, to be included into this model. Okay, so contextual knowledge was not there, but then it was proposed that the cognitive knowledge need to be added, yeah, to the model itself. So according to Jones, yeah, the cognitive knowledge that was referred by this researcher is that it's knowledge on cognitive psychology, yeah, which is basically talking about, you know, how our mental processes, yeah, during learning affect our behavior. Okay, so the interrelationship between the mental processes and our behavior. Okay, so example of like the outcome, you know, from this kind of knowledge is, yeah, we learn that it is easier for us to learn if we actually do repetition. All right, so if we repeat some information, that is easier for us to learn. Okay, or maybe with the use of mnemonics, yeah, or maybe with the chunking of information, yeah, the use of visual data, yeah, visual mind mapping and things like that seems to actually help in terms of our learning. So this is basically a knowledge about how the mental processes here is assisted, yeah, when we actually do some modification to the way the information is presented to the learners. Yeah, so you see the cognitive knowledge comes in, yeah, so it makes the model seems to be more comprehensive now. Okay, so from the initial content, pedagogical, technological, added with the contextual, and then another one is cognitive. We already have 5 different types of knowledge, yeah. But to me, I would say that I would like to propose the model to add up to add another knowledge domain, which is on the affective knowledge domain. Okay, affective here basically it talks about the knowledge on students' emotional well-being. Okay, it talks about someone's emotion, right? So I think this is particularly relevant during this pandemic, yeah, where I think the knowledge on the students' emotional well-being should be also incorporated into our online learning design. Okay, we need to take a little bit of effort to find out, yeah, this particular aspect, yeah, of our students, and then knowledge on maybe on how students' emotions, yeah, relate to our learning design. Okay. For example, yeah, if we have like 2 or 3 hours, you know, a live lecture, a passive session with our students, can you imagine the emotion of our students, right? So this is the effective knowledge domain, which I feel that if this is included into the model, it will make a more comprehensive model that can describe the types of knowledge that the instructor need to have before the instructor can start to design that online learning. All right, so just to recap on the different types of knowledge. So we have the content knowledge, which is basically the knowledge on the subject matter. So it's regarding on what knowledge is to be delivered. And the pedagogical knowledge domain is the knowledge of the practices, processes, and methods regarding to teaching and learning. So the question would be, how can the content be delivered effectively? Okay, this is the questions that we need to answer as the instructor. Okay, are we going to use any of these strategies that are listed here? Okay, and technological knowledge would be knowledge of the ability to use various technologies, technological tools, and also the associated resources. So the questions here that we have to try to answer would be, what are the technological tools that we want to use? And we have to take the effort to learn some of these tools, or at least to know some of these the categories of tools, because we need to know the potential of the tools. You may not need to know the details of the tools, if you think that the function of the tools do not meet your pedagogical requirements. But sometimes these two domains can actually inform each other very well, because knowing the tools will allow you to know the potential. Knowing the potential will affect your pedagogical decision. All right. So beside your decision coming from the content, it also may be affected by your knowledge on the technological tools. So this kind of knowledge is actually very important. Of course, in this sharing, I'm not going to give this kind of knowledge to you in details, but I'm trying to tell you that these are the types of knowledge that you need to have, and in case you found that there are certain aspects of the knowledge that you're not very familiar with, or you think that you are still lacking of, then you should seek for some more assistance. Now, the next thing that we talked about is the contextual knowledge, right? It's basically, as I mentioned just now, is knowledge of the context. Like example, the students' conditions, the requirements from faculty, from MQA, from university, from national policies, and even the global trending can actually inform us of our design, right? And then the cognitive aspect, just now Jones mentioned that it's actually according to her definition, is on knowledge on cognitive psychology. But to me, cognitive knowledge also can refer to the knowledge that we derive by knowing the working on the human brain in learning. So how does the human brain actually work in learning? And that kind of understanding, okay, the neuroscience aspect of that can actually inform us, what are the best way for us to present our material, what are the best activities students should involve, and things like that. These are the cognitive knowledge that we can actually employ. And effective knowledge is basically knowledge on students' emotional well-being and knowledge on how students' emotions relate to our learning design. Okay, cannot say much about this, but we need a much longer session if we want to have more understanding on these aspects. But anyway, I want to give some examples here. Like for instance, in contextual knowledge, just give you an example of how we can get some contextual knowledge. So here I'm going to share a little bit on what the university has done. Okay, this is actually based on a survey that was conducted before semester 1, 2020, 2021. Okay. A survey was conducted among the first year students, so before they came in at UNIMAS, so that there was a survey, and we actually managed to get 2,000 plus respondents. Okay, so this case is UNIMAS survey. So you can see here that in this case, you can see that, all right, these are the distribution from the different faculties. And we found that one of the information that can help to describe the contextual, the student's condition is actually about 70% of the students do have good internet access, but 30% actually do not have good internet access. All right. Does that actually inform you on the way that you design your online learning? I believe it does affect, because if you do like a synchronous session, such as this, it does require a good internet connection, Otherwise, I don't think students will get much from the session, So by knowing that this kind of scenario, does that actually affect your decision on how you want to design your online learning? I think yes, it will. You may have to consider reducing this kind of live session with your students, because you know that a lot of them actually do not have good access. In fact, for this semester, we are in the first week now, I did a survey among my students, and I found that actually 50% of my students, although they do have internet connection, but they reported that they do not have very good internet connections, and they sometimes really face problem, with their connectivity. So that really informed me about something on my design later on. Right. And then the next thing, these are the results here, the findings that we get on the device used here. 72% they are using both computer and mobile phone. Great. 21% use a computer. They're not using their mobile phone for learning. That is great as well. But we have to understand that we have students who actually do not own any computer. So imagine that you are asking them to do a lot of activities and a lot of assignments, and they actually do not have a computer. So we really need to trace out who they are in our class, and they will need very special attention from us. 7% is actually a huge percentage. 7%. Now, this is on the UNIMAS returning students. All right, just now was for first year students. So respondents, we have like 40,000 plus students. All right, so mostly from undergraduate. And this showing the distribution from the different faculties. And mostly respondents are from Tier 2 students, And it seems that good internet access, 77%, 23% do not have good internet access. Still is a huge number, 23% out of 4,464. It is not a small number, And some of them could be in your class as well, all right? And the devices used, you can see here, all right, the distribution. So we still have 4.5% of students, they only have mobile phone for online learning, all right? And in terms of online learning readiness, that the survey was done, which I think is also informing us on the contextual domain of students here. Now, these are the distribution of their feedback. So the average overall online learning readiness is 3.36 on a 5-point scale. And for each of the component, you can see how it is the results are. All right. So generally, we can see that our students' online learning readiness is moderate. Moderate. And then if we were to compare the returning students and the first year students, this is first year returning students, and statistically, it was found that returning students, the online learning readiness is significantly higher than the first year student. So if we're teaching first year students, maybe we need to do a little bit more, in order to help them to be more ready for online learning. So these are the aspects that we actually look at. For instance, in terms of their motivation for learning, learner control here referring to whether they get distracted or not with other matters during the online learning. In fact, many of them reported that they actually have a problem in concentrating on their online learning, because they got so many other distractions, social medias and things like that. So they cannot have that kind of learner control. So what can we do? as instructor, yeah, when we come to our learning design, okay, can we instill some of the skills like computing skills, online communication skills among our students, yeah, during our online course, yeah, in the design of online course? Can we do something about that? I mean, this is something that can inform us, okay, and we think that it's appropriate for us to do some intervention, why not, right? So the next thing is the cognitive knowledge that I mentioned just now. All right. So cognitive knowledge here. Okay, there are four things here that maybe we can adopt the ideas, because these are the strategies, yeah, that are derived based on research studies, yeah. And one of the strategies that people think the researchers somehow show that is important for us to actually vary our instructional activities, yeah, because it actually can help to retain the attention of our students, yeah, getting them engaged, and not the same thing, the same style or the same activity throughout the semester. Okay, so varying the instructional activities would be one of the good strategies for us to employ. Okay, these are all based on researcher studies. Yeah, but another thing that I would like to highlight when we talk about varying instructional activities would be, although we are supposed to vary, but personally, I think we should not also create too many types of instructional activities, yeah, because then that will actually cognitive, yeah, overload the cognition of our students, yeah, become cognitive overload. Instead of giving the benefits, that it becomes the reverse, yeah. So that's one thing, yeah. And also, like focus or passive learning, okay, should not be lengthy. Okay, so research has found that, you should keep it short, maybe 12 to 15 minutes, would be the ideal length. Yeah, so try not to be too long. Okay, that's one thing, especially when they just receive it passively. All right, okay. And that repetition, it was found that it is good to help people to retain, okay, to remember, okay, retain information. So you can do like a repetition, maybe to do pre-exposure, previewing, priming, reviewing, or revising your content, because repetition has shown to be able to help them to retain the information or the content, yeah, that you want them to remember, okay. And active learning is also very important. All right, so try to include some kind of active learning, because studies have shown that this is how humans learn. Okay, when they are actively engaged, cognitively active, when their cognition, yeah, they are actively in terms of their cognition, then they actually can learn better. Yeah, so try to include some active learning activities in your online learning, not just thinking about delivering the content and that's it. Yeah, I think I wouldn't claim, but then maybe there are instructors who think that, I only need to spend time to create the content, deliver the content, then they are ready for assessment. Okay, but ignoring there is a need to create some kind of active learning opportunities. Yeah, so do consider to include some these kind of activities, yeah, in your online learning. And images, right? Because our brain processes more visual data than any type of other data. Therefore, we have to put images, yeah, into our learning materials, yeah, into our teaching materials, yeah, and even other kind of activities. Yeah, try to put more images, yeah, and novelty as well as color, can also help us to engage in certain content, all right, yeah, or maybe to attract our attention towards certain focus, yeah. Example, the use of color, allow us to correct certain emotion as well, right? Now, another thing is that from the study, we know that, the brain is somehow wired in such a way that, we need to be socially connected. Okay, this is how human is somehow is being built. So therefore, in order to help them in learning, it is actually important for us to have collaborative learning activities. Yeah, possibly the active learning requires some kind of collaboration among the students. Yeah, so these are some of the strategies that are derived, yeah, from the understanding of the working of the human brain or the working of the human mind. All right, and then the effective knowledge, yeah, domain. All right. I think we do hear like from many news or stories that students, some students, yeah, are facing this distressing period, yeah, with this pandemic, yeah, and especially due to online learning, So I think some of the possible causes, yeah, for this problem is maybe these students are new to online learning. That's one thing. Okay, now they are into the third semester on online learning. I mean, for returning students, so maybe they are more familiar with this kind of learning mode. Yeah, but then we have to understand the inadequate access to online learning that causes the struggle that they are having. All right, we also have to understand they are separated from friends. Really, that it's not natural at all to be alone at home studying at home. Okay, and some of them they don't even have like conducive or home environment, for them to learn. Yeah? They need to take care of their siblings, the younger siblings, and then noisy environment, or the parents ask them to do work and things like that. So these are some of the causes that they really have some emotional problems. Yeah, some of them have financial worries. Yeah, and even worry about getting sick, right? Because we're talking about COVID now, right? I think it's important for us as an instructor to actually acknowledge our students' anxiety. Okay, don't ignore it, but just acknowledge it. And as an instructor, things that we can do, yeah, in the online learning itself, I think it's part of the design itself, I believe, would be like, for instance, you can have regular check-ins with your students, especially the struggling ones, yeah, trying to know the students' well-being, okay, an initial survey like what I did in my class, and allow me to see, who actually have some problems in their online learning. Okay, some of them actually tell me that, they have problems with their home environment and things like that. So these are the students that they are going to be my target later on. Yeah, if I see that they are passive, I see that they are not being able to participate in activities, or maybe they don't come for the live meetings and things like that. I think these are the students who I will actually do some kind of intervention. Okay, regular check-ins. Yeah. Practice empathy, right? Provide flexibility, maybe in terms of your delivery mode, that they cannot go for live. Maybe you should do something else, pre-record maybe, or do something else. Yeah, even your recording from your live lecture should be provided in a feasible way. Okay, don't provide a 2 or 3 hours lecture with a big Mac, a big file, and then you ask them to actually view it. I think it's not reasonable as well. Take a little bit of effort, maybe to chunk it into smaller bits, so that it's easier for them to download and things like that. I mean, I'm talking about those students who really need those requirements. Yeah, so we got to find out who they are. Okay, if there is no such an occurrence in your case, in your context, then that's fine, right? And incorporate social emotion skills in online teaching, right? And so if you have some knowledge about this, yeah, then you can actually try to incorporate some of this, the one that I list out here, in your online teaching. You purposely incorporate that, and also create social presence via online activities, so that this can actually reduce students' isolation. Okay, they don't feel that they are all alone, because they feel that they have the peers, they're working together on some kind of online activities. Yeah, that is on a effective knowledge. Yeah. Now, okay, the next thing I'm going to point out, because just now I mentioned that what are the important considerations, in design on engaging online learning. Okay, so I'm going to point out a few points here. So besides having that 6 types of knowledge, I think the 6 types of knowledge that I mentioned is also related to the points that I'm going to talk about here for the next. I'm not sure how long until the end of the sharing. Okay, so the first point, the first consideration here is it is important for us to decide on the delivery mode. Okay, so before you start with your online learning design, I think that is the first thing that you need to have here. You got to decide on your delivery mode. Yeah? In certain circumstances, you may be given the authority to decide. Yeah, but in the case of like in our university, UNIMAS, somehow the decision is already made at a higher level, right? So this program you go for full online, that program you go for blended and things like that. So it's already been decided. Okay, whatever it is, we need to know that kind of decision, and that kind of decision is is coming from the contextual knowledge, all right, contextual knowledge. So if you see here, you can actually see the continuum, all right, from face to face to online, and of course with the blended learning in between, right? So I'm not going to talk about these two, okay? Well, some of you may be having a blended course in your program, yeah, because I do know that some students actually come back to campus and you are asked to do a blended mode, okay? So blended have these few types here, but a lot of us are actually into full online, okay? So when we talk about full online, all right, we have no face-to-face session. Yeah? We don't see our students. Yeah? But there are two conditions here. One is the instructor presence, whether the instructor can be present during that online learning. Okay, the first one is no. The second one is yes. And in our case, we are into the second context, yes, the second situation where we actually can have instructor presence. Yeah, we still can actually have interaction with our students, right? So an example of a no face-to-face session for online where the instructor is not available is the use of MOOC, yeah, MOOC, yeah, the MOOC, yeah. In that case, you can see the instructor is not there most of the time, all right? So you don't have that kind of interaction. Now, of course, when you talk about full online, you are expected to have your elite, yeah, to have like learning resources, to have learning activities, and also to have learning assessment, okay? It would not be sufficient if you only have learning resources and then you don't have your activities. Assessment-wise, okay, I believe you have your assignments and that could be part of the assessment itself, right? Okay, but then the learning activities has to be there, okay, to make yourself qualified as full online learning. And online courses, of course, standalone, we talk about full online. So the reflection here, if we are going into that mode, you know, are you actually capitalizing on interaction opportunities? Because you and your students are still meeting in bracket, okay, virtually, and you still can communicate with them using other channels, like for instance, using your WhatsApp or Telegram, okay, you still can actually interact using the discussion forum or whatever chat platform that you have, okay, so you still can have live meeting with them. So are you capitalizing on the interaction opportunity? One thing, yeah, and do I have a complete course with all the three components? Yeah, so I think this is just a reflection. Yeah, you don't have to give me your answer, just reflect it yourself, right? Now, the second considerations, yeah, is to decide on your instructional mode. Yeah, if you said you want to design your online learning, the second thing that you need to do is decide on the instructional mode. Do I go for synchronous, asynchronous, or hybrid? Okay, so how do I decide this? I think it requires the knowledge, yeah, the contextual knowledge, knowing your students' condition. That's one thing. Secondly, is maybe it's because maybe there are some directive from somebody, okay, maybe whoever, that could become your contextual knowledge as well. Content knowledge, I think it will help to decide whether you can go for any of these mode, okay, and your pedagogical knowledge. Yeah, I think these three kind of knowledge need to be considered together before you can make your decision, all right? So, if you were to ask what is synchronous, I think a lot of you know already. It's about real-time learning, okay? And asynchronous is non-real-time. So the thing about synchronous is learners might have good internet connection during your session, but asynchronous, fine. You need to have internet connection. No internet connection, no online learning. Yeah, so students still need to have internet connection. It's just that they do not have to have good internet connection during the time that you specify. Okay, they can go through the learning materials or learning activities anytime according to their best to their convenience. All right. Now, or you want to go for hybrid. All right. So now, just to give a little bit of information based on the survey that was done, the one that I mentioned just now, and this was done for the returning students. All right. So these are the preferred online learning methods. Yeah, you could see that. Okay. Do I have a better? All right. Preferred online learning methods, yeah, chosen by more than 50% of the respondents, yeah. 81% said that they like lecture slides, yeah. So lecture slides are something that they are looking for, okay. We do have a huge group, 75% saying that they prefer to have lecture via the virtual conferencing tool, okay. So you see, and then video resources, 72% means example downloadable pre-recorded lecture, yeah, the teaching videos, yeah. So 70%, like that kind. And 64% said messaging via tools like WhatsApp or Telegram is something that they think is necessary as well, okay? And 54% that they want to have like discussion or interaction with the students, via the virtual conferencing tools, yeah. And also there's quite more than 50%, 52% said that, they actually prefer online quiz and things like that, all right? Although we have these results, yeah, I think we also have to interpret these results with care, yeah, because generally I think the preference may also reflect the most commonly used method used by UNIMAS instructors, yeah. So less preferred methods, yeah, may also infer less used methods by the instructors, yeah. So there is a possibility that students do not have the opportunity to experience them. Hence, these methods are less preferred. Yeah. So the other kind of methods that were surveyed during that time, what example, the use of games, video resources, other than those created by instructors, self-study, online forum, mind map, collaboration tools, sorry, this is club-less collaboration, like you can collaborate using Google Docs, things like that. Social networking tools, email communication, collaboration via Wiki, via Miro, and things like that, So these are the examples of the methods that was listed in the survey, but somehow you see it was not really chosen by the students, yeah. But that's why I said we have to also reflect, is it because we don't use it, therefore they don't choose, because they never experience it anyway. Now, all right. So, and then another items that I think could be meaningful would be 70% said that they would prefer synchronous, 20% asynchronous, but actually 63% would love to go for both hybrid, okay? So based on this kind of survey, it may give us a little bit of contextual knowledge on how we should design our online learning environment. Okay, definitely it convinced me that I should go for hybrid mode. Okay, so all right, the next consideration is about employing an appropriate ID model, instructional design model. So now, what is actually an ID model or instructional design model? It actually prescribe the design and development steps, so that important aspect during the design and development process of our online learning, okay, are not left out. Okay, therefore we follow the model, then we won't miss out important aspect. Okay, so these are examples of the ID models, the common ID models that you see, and you can actually employ them. Okay, maybe some of you have actually learned some of these models, but you never really pull it out and try to employ it, adopt it, in your design. Okay, so I think this is the most classic model. Okay, the ID model. Although it is a very classic model, I do think that it actually points out some critical aspect, that we see that some of these critical aspects are actually being adopted by models, by the subsequent models, the models that are more recent. Okay, so therefore I would like to briefly go through some of the important things that are actually specified in some of these in this 5 phases in the AD model. Okay, so you can see that the first phase is about the analysis. Of course, AD model received quite a number of critics. But fine, I'm not going to talk about its limitation, but just to highlight some of the ideas from it. So analysis here, basically it involves contextual knowledge, content knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and technological knowledge. Because here you will analyze that, for instance, who is your audience? What are their characteristics? You want to know about your students, right? That is about contextual knowledge. So think of some way to know about your students now. Okay, to me, I will do a survey lah. Okay, use the Google form, online form, to find out more about them. Identify the new behavioral outcome, which is the content knowledge. This is, of course, you already identified that. Okay, and what are the types of learning constraints exist? This is the contextual knowledge. Do they have this constraint? Do they have internet connection problems and things like that? So these are all the contextual knowledge that you want to analyze. What are the delivery options? This will be your technological knowledge. Yeah. So how many tools that you know within elite or beyond elite, outside elite, what are the tools that you think that you want to use in your learning? So these are the delivery options, by referring to your content, of course. So you start to analyze, and what are the online pedagogical considerations, how do I deliver this content, what are the types of strategies that should I employ in order to deliver it? So this is at the analysis part that you're going to do, right? So and what is the timeline for project completion? This is also something that you want to consider. How much time do you have in order to come up with that? That will actually decide how your design is. And then in the design part, you will talk about applying the instructional strategies, according to the intended behavior outcome. Okay, so and then the development. Then you start to develop. You start to come up with the different content assets of media, and then you put them together. Right, that's the development part. And of course, in the development, you may have some revision to the development by getting feedback from people, from your potential students or from anyone. Okay, then you start to implement it. All right, and finally, you can do some evaluation. Right, so basically, this is the idea of that particular model. Okay. Now, you can also employ like Merrill's principles of instruction. If you go for problem-based learning, example, you can try to use this model. So you use the principle saying that the first thing that you have to think of, if you want to have a problem-based learning, for instance, learning is promoted when learners are engaged in solving real-world problems. So you have to think of the real-world problems, right? Learning is promoted when existing knowledge is activated as foundation for new knowledge. So you have to think ways on how you can help the students to recall their existing knowledge. Example, learning is promoted when new knowledge is demonstrated to the learner. So you must think of some way so that the knowledge can be demonstrated. So these are the principles that you can follow if you want to come up with a problem-based learning, for example. So learning is promoted when new knowledge is applied. So you must provide or correct the opportunity for your learner to apply that knowledge. So you have to correct some activities to allow that to happen, some assessment that allows that to happen. And learning is promoted when new knowledge is integrated into the learner's work. So how can you design your learning, in such a way that this will happen? So basically, this kind of model is telling us that, these are the considerations when you design, you think of this, think of this, think of this, right? And of course, we have these guidance 9 events. So you can follow the 9 events here when you actually design your learning. Or you can go for CAM's design model. In fact, this is one of my favorite design model. It is actually based on the AD model. You can see carefully, this is actually AD, right? So if certain parts can be combined and become AD. But somehow this model give more details, description, and also it is more flexible. Just now in the AD model, you can see that the arrow, it is actually very linear. One way. This one you see is one way. For analysis, you go to design, development, implementation, evaluation. It's just one linear way. But CAM's model is more flexible in that sense. It does not give you that kind of rigidity, right? So therefore, I do like this model. So you can actually use this model and go through this one by one to ensure that these aspects are not left out during your design work. Now, the fourth consideration, is about how to bring your face-to-face strategies to the online realm. Now, this part here very much related to your pedagogical knowledge and also to your technological knowledge. So we talk about face-to-face strategies like direct teaching, problem-based learning, POPBL, studio-based learning, task-based learning, inquiry-based learning, challenge-based learning, team-based learning, and even game-based learning, right? So we have a long list of different strategies that we used to employ in the conventional face-to-face teaching. But now we want to go for online implementation. So it means that we have to map how are we going to do this online. We want to use the same strategy, but I want to do it online. So how am I going to do that? All right. So therefore, I think this is important. This kind of knowledge is important, right? So here I have time constraints, so I'm not going to talk about all the strategies. So I'm only going to focus on the first one, which is on direct teaching. All right. So this particular consideration here, is very much related, if you refer to CAM's design model, is on the instructional strategy, which is the pedagogical knowledge, and the development of the instruction, which is the technological knowledge. Yeah, so it talks about, it's very related to these two steps in the CAMS design model. Okay, now direct teaching. Okay, I'm going to talk about only the first one. Okay, so in direct teaching, we talk about learning resources. Okay, I think a lot of us are very familiar with direct teaching. Okay, you provide resources such as lecture materials, any additional references, and even do demonstration. Okay, you provide those resources in appropriate media format. That's one thing. Then you do some kind of reinforcement of what you have delivered. Okay, and after that, you will do formative assessment. You wanted to get your learners' understanding. Do they really understand what I have delivered earlier or not? Okay, this is about direct teaching. It's the conventional teaching strategy that we have experienced and we always adopt, right? So nothing wrong with direct teaching. Okay, direct teaching is still a strategy, right? Nothing wrong with that. Okay, it's just that this strategy is very instructor-centered approach. Yeah, like what I'm doing now is actually very instructor-centered, right? So I'm following this direct teaching approach actually. Now, direct teaching process is, first thing, there are three things, yeah, that direct teaching process, yeah, there are three steps here. The first step is that the instructor provides direct teaching, okay? And then learners are expected to passively receive knowledge, all right? They sit down there and then they receive your knowledge, okay, fine. Secondly, the instructor provides learning resources and the learners study the resources, okay? So, and thirdly, learners participate in activities to reinforce and to demonstrate the learning. Okay, so there are three things here. So I have to map this. This is the process that I do even in face-to-face, right? That's the process. So now I want to do it to the online learning. So I have to map it, okay? So to provide direct teaching, fine, okay? My online learning design, I can provide either live or maybe recorded direct teaching, all right? I can do that. So to provide learning resources, then I can think in my online learning, I will provide various learning resources in appropriate media format. Okay, fine. Then learners participate activities to reinforce their learning and also to demonstrate their learning. Then I have to provide online learning activities to reinforce the learning and provide a space to for learners, yeah, to demonstrate their learning, right? So that's how I do the mapping, okay? So further, okay, because I then need to actually map with the technological affordances, right? Knowing the design is not enough. I need to know what are the tools that can actually support me. So in this case, if I want to provide live teaching, fine, I can use virtual conferencing tools, right? I can use screen recording tools if I want to record, yeah, my teaching, fine, that's done. So these are examples of the tools that you may be very familiar with, okay? So some of you may be using a virtual conferencing tools, a lot, and also screen recording tools, you can use some of this. Now, to provide the learning resources in appropriate format, it also means that you as the instructor need to know some of the learning resources creation tools, right? So that only then you can provide the resources, okay? So what are the learning resources creation tools? So if in Moodle, yeah, in Elite, okay, for example, okay, you can actually have, you can actually have this kind of functions, yeah, for you to create your content, right? You can create a label, you can create a folder and things like that. Then you can start to create your content, right? So that's very straightforward. Or you think that you want to have video resources, then you can go for some example like YouTube, Dailymotion, Vimeo, and things like that, to look for your video resources. Or maybe sometimes you need to edit the video, okay, to create your video resources. Then maybe sometimes you need to do that, yeah. Or maybe you need to have like doing some animation video, okay? Then you need to have some of these tools to help you, all right? So means that technological knowledge comes in, okay? And then next thing, like for example, if you want to have like create document sharing, okay? Then you can have like all these tools, yeah. The one using a OneDrive, or Google Drive, yeah. Or audio recording, you can use some tools like SoundCloud. If you were to do presentation, of course you can use a PowerPoint. But beside that, you can also use other type of tools, yeah, to help you to create your presentation, okay, your presentation visuals, yeah. Or if you want to create infographic, then you start to think of the tools that will help you to create the infographics. Yeah, you may try tools like Canva, Chart, Pixel Editor, Snapple, Adobe Illustrator. If you are well versed with Adobe products, you can go for that. Interactive content, then you can think of like, if I want to create interactive content such as this, yeah, like I have this 360-degree view, I click a certain hotspot and then I can get more information about the environment, or even a two-dimensional picture. If I want to click on a certain hotspot, students can get information. So I can use this kind of tools to create the content, all right? So bear in mind, when I talk about creating content, yeah, a lot of the time that you think that content creation must be from the students, yeah? No, sorry, must be from the instructor, yeah? Not necessary, okay? A lot of time content creation can be from your students, yeah? So providing learning resources can be from you, can also be co-curated by your students. So some of these tools can be exposed to the students and get your students to actually create the content, yeah? So that's one of the things about direct teaching, okay? The learning resources here can be created by instructor, can also be created by students. And here we talk about online educational platform where we can find a lot of open educational resources, yeah? So a lot of time when resources are already available, we do not have to reinvent the wheel to actually create the resources, yeah? We just use them, okay? So these are some things that we need to know. That's on the mapping between our online design and the technological affordances. Then we talk about the need for us to help them to reinforce the learning, right? Help them to demonstrate their learning. So we need actually provide learning activities to reinforce the learning. So we can think of like discussion tools, we can think of like brainstorming tools, we can think of like mind mapping tools, and even reflection tools, right? And provide a space for learners to demonstrate their learning. Maybe we can use gamification tools and like that, right? So example of discussion tools, yeah, of course, in Moodle itself, in our Elite itself, you have your discussion, okay? You can have your wiki, okay? So that's on discussion. And also, you can use other type of platform. For instance, you can use Padlet, Recollet, Lino, Mentimeter, Wooclap, yeah? Dot-storming, Answer Garden, Flipgrid, and a lot more. All right, so these are the tools that you can actually use, yeah? If you want to have discussion or brainstorming with your students, or maybe among the students. And also you can use mind mapping tools, right? So you have a lot of free online mind mapping tools, yeah, like Poplet, Koggle, Easily, MindMaster, and things like that. Okay, these are some of the example of mind mapping tools that you can use and provide a space for learners to demonstrate their learning. Maybe you want to use some gamification tools to allow that, okay? So within Elite itself, you can have a quiz or H5P, right? Or you can use external tools such as the one listed here. All right, so I'm not going to go detail on all this, yeah, but basically just to give the idea that there is a need for you to have technological knowledge and to map it with your pedagogical requirements. So this is just an example for direct teaching, okay? So of course, for other type of teaching, if you are interested to know more about, yeah, you can always refer to my previous webinar, okay? So here in the webinar itself, I actually explain more than direct teaching, I actually explain the other teaching strategies as well and how you can actually map it online, all right? Okay, the fifth consideration, I would say that there's a need for you to design appealing and engaging instructional messages. And here, it is very much related to cognitive knowledge as well as affective knowledge, yeah? Now, if I refer to the CAMS model, then it is actually very much related to this step in the model itself, yeah, which is on designing the message. Yeah? When you start to design the message, yeah, then you have to think, how should you design it? Okay, just want to point out here that if you look at this infographics here, it says that 65% of people are actually visual learners, yeah. And then another fact here is 99% of all sensory data gets filtered out by the brain immediately, and only visual data is in the 1% that is left. So we have so much data information coming into through our senses, okay? but actually 99% are not getting into our brain. Only 1% got into it. And visual data is part of that 1%. Okay. And what is important is out of that 1%, 90% of 90% of the information is transmitted to the brain is actually in the visual form. Okay, so what I want to highlight here is basically it talks about the importance of using visuals in our teaching and learning. Okay, so when it is possible, try to use visual. Okay, when it is possible. And when we talk about visual design principles, I think a lot of time you will actually need to have this kind of knowledge because even when you correct your presentation slide, your teaching material, teaching slides, you may want to apply these visual design principles. Example, you must create a balance. When you have your slides, make sure that it's balanced. That's one thing. These are visual design principles. Secondly, scaling can actually signal importance. So if you use different scaling, the bigger one would be the one that is somehow you want to show that it's more important than the rest. Even the contrast, when you use color, contrast can actually convey that, these elements are more significant than the rest. The contrast can actually give that information to your learners. Visual hierarchy, for instance, visual hierarchy. So more important information is presented at the top, right? So because this is how we read things, So visual hierarchy, and then the Gestalt principles basically talk about, we see things as a whole rather than an individual element. See, now we are seeing this as one big rectangle rather than seeing this as many circles of different portion of circles, right? So that's on Gestalt principles. So this is visual principles. So if you were to, this is how our eyes flow. So means the important information has to be here. Okay, least important information will be down here, right? And use colors sparingly. Don't have one start with a lot of colors. This is also not very good in terms of learning. Okay, very hard. It's going to be very cognitive overload. You do not know where your focus is when you have too many colors on the slide. And that's one thing that I think we all have to pay attention is even students need to know about this because every time when there's presentation, I do see that students like to use capital throughout, the slides. You can see all capitals. Actually, it's actually not good. Visual design principles tell us that, using capitals is actually making the text not legible. You can only use capital letters if you have 6 words. Anything that is not more than 6 words, then you can use capital letters throughout. Okay, if more than that, do not use that. Right. These are some of the principles. Mostly, I think should be derived from research, I believe. Now, if you want to reinforce your point, maybe you can repeat, add redundancy. More white space here basically means that do not produce a cluttered visual. Okay, cluttered means too many things on one visual. That's very cluttered. No. Okay. And also the use of font. Okay, 2 font would be maximum for one visual. Okay, if too many, then it's actually not very easy for us to read. Okay, for people to read. And also try to use which one? We are supposed to not to use. Sorry, not here. Okay, later I'll talk about that. Establish a visual hierarchy among your info, example by using different font, different size, or different color. Okay, so you make use of this, to create the hierarchy. Okay, to let people see the structure. All right, how you organize your materials. That's one thing. And use of grid to ensure the content is clean, aligned, balanced, and also never use a Comic Sans font. What does a Comic Sans font here means? Comic Sans fonts are example of fonts with the frills at the edge of the character. Okay, like example, Times New Roman. You can see that there are frills at the end or at the edge of the font. Okay, so do not use that kind of font because it is actually not easy to read. Is one thing, and it has been shown through studies that students with with reading disability, for example, those with dyslexia, they actually have difficulty to read that kind of font. So to be safe, why not we just use we just try to avoid using this kind of font. All right, font with frills. Do not use that. Okay, I think audio design principles is also important. Because now we talk about the use of video, we talk about the use of audio, even podcasts, right? So now, what are the audio design principles that we can take into consideration? The first one is in terms of the narrative format. Okay, we have to consider this. Okay, if we are depending on the types of the narrative, so if you want to deliver like informational kind of a narrative in a very formal way, so maybe we can be actually prepare a well-written script so that the narrative can be well delivered smoothly. All right, that's one thing, especially if you have pre-recorded teaching videos. Sometimes you may want to prepare some scripts so that it is the delivery is smooth, okay, and everything is in well ordered, and you actually can correct that compact teaching video. All right, now if it is meant for personal communication, then you can actually use some conversational tone. You can increase the use of pronouns such as I, you, and things like that, right? We, our, and things like that, right? So that's the narrative format. And secondly, avoid lengthy sentences, okay, because it will overload our working memory, okay? If our sentences are too long, then it's very hard for our brain to process, this is due to the limitation of a short-term memory, okay? So avoid lengthy sentences, if we are using audio instruction, okay? Avoid low quality audio. Example, you're doing the recording in a noisy environment. That will cause a lot of distraction, right? I think we all experience it as well, and we don't like it, right? And also, I think it is good to invest in good recording device. So if you do not have a good mic, maybe you have to do a little bit of investment on that, okay? So that your students will not be struggling. And avoid unexpected silences, hesitation and things like that. Okay, this one we should know, right? So these are some of the audio design principles. Now I'm into the consideration number 6. I have 7 considerations altogether. All right, the 6th consideration is about maintaining 3 types of presence. I think many of you may have heard that in designing your online learning, it is important for us to have these 3 types of presence. First one is cognitive presence. Second is social presence. And the third one is the instructor presence. So I call it CSI, easy for you to remember. All right. So I think the idea here somehow very related to cognitive knowledge, to pedagogical knowledge, technological knowledge, and also affective knowledge. So now, if I refer to the CAMS design model, it is very much related to these 3 steps in the model itself, okay? So here when we talk about cognitive presence, okay, cognitive presence is basically, in terms of cognitive presence, we as the instructor, we should try to assist our student to process the information or the content easily, okay, effectively, engagingly. Okay, so ultimately what we want our students to have is that during their learning, their cognition is actually there, present. Okay, so what can we do an instructor to ensure that they have this cognitive presence? Okay, so we have to think of strategies to facilitate these quality cognitive processes so that our students can build the knowledge. Okay, and what is important, we want them to build, their personal understanding of the content, and also afford some kind of a shared dialogue to allow that cognitive processes to be happen and allow the knowledge construction to happen. All right, so this is cognitive presence. Okay, so we as an instructor, our work purpose here is to think of strategy. How can we create that students' cognitive presence? Of course, it's not our cognitive presence, it's the students' cognitive presence. How when they learn, they really engage. All right. When you say presence, means that you're cognitively you are there. Okay, you are not thinking of some other thing, but you really pay attention and you really can work out something. You can understand it and build your knowledge through that process. So the mental process has to be very active. Yeah, if you said that you are cognitively present. All right. Secondly, okay, social presence means that the strategies that we need to have so that we can facilitate the connection between the students, so that the students feel that there is a social presence in the online learning. As you mentioned, online learning is very isolated. We are all far apart. We don't see each other. So how can we facilitate that social presence so that students don't feel isolated? They still know their peers. They still know their classmates. They support each other, things like that. So what can we do, right? And also for instructor presence would be we have to be there, okay? Although we are not physically there, we have to be virtually available. So what can we do to allow the students to see that, hey, we are actually there, okay? We are actually virtually available for them, okay? And how can we engage with our students, yeah, to show that we are there, presence. All right, so you have been listening to me for the past 1 hour. Must be very tiring with the screen fatigue. So now, I do want you to have a little bit of activity, give you a little bit of time for this because it needs your ideas on how to create CSI. Okay, I call it CSI, which stands for cognitive presence, social presence, and also instructor presence. All right. So what are your ideas or strategies to create CSI presence? Yeah, so I would like you to scan this QR code, okay, to access the platform, or you can actually type this URL on your browser to access that particular platform, so that I can see your ideas, and we can collect the ideas and see how we can put all these ideas together to enrich, our strategies. Huh? All right, can you do it now?
Sorry to interrupt, Prof. Just a few review from the participants.
Yes.
Okay, so we can see from Prof. Cheng Sheng Shu. He said that I just did a quick check. On average, 1 hour of Zoom will consume about 500 megabyte. 50% of this 500 megabyte is due to uploading activities. So another 50% for downloading activities. So to reduce the data consumed, I don't impose that students must switch on their webcam all the time, even when they are presenting. So this can reduce their data consumption up to 30% due to the uploading activities. So this is the comment from Prof. Keng.
Yes. That is a very good suggestion. Yeah, in fact, there are a few things that we can do. Firstly, do not ask them to turn on their video because that will really consume not just that students with bandwidth, but also other students. Yeah, that's one thing. And secondly, is that try not to also put a virtual background, okay, because that will also increase the students who have low bandwidth. Yeah, so that's also another example of how we can help to reduce. And in fact, if we are sharing our screen, it also will use up more bandwidth. Yeah, if we share our screen. So if it's just like virtual talking and interaction, it will be less. So
I need to change the virtual background.
No worries, because we all have good internet connection. You don't have to worry about us. Yeah.
Okay. So one more thing, Prof, from Dr. Spencer. So it's okay if you are not interacting with any particular student to ask them to switch off their webcam. However, when a student are interacting with me, such as comments and questions, I prefer them showing their face webcam on. So other times they can switch off in order to reduce their data consumption.
Yes. That would be one of the ways, because sometimes we also want to see their face, right? Their faces. We want the presence, right? So if they are able to turn it on, that would be very good, because other students also be more excited when they see their friends' faces, So if there is no issue on the bandwidth, and if they can turn it on, I think it would be good for them to just turn it on, okay? Yeah, that is also one of the things that I ask my students to do, but usually I don't force them. If they don't want to turn on, it's fine. And if they don't want to respond using their mic, they can always respond using the chat box. Yeah, so that's some of the ways we try to help them. Yeah. Yeah, I think these are all very good suggestions. Yeah. Okay, can we just take a look at the word clap? All right, let me switch to mine. Okay, so what I have here, I do have some ideas. I'm glad. All right, I have ideas on how to build connected presence. I hope everyone can give your ideas so that we have a good compilation here, and you all can have better ideas. And me too. I'm learning from you all as well. I mean, we are learning from each other. Okay, connected presence. Give a task using OneDrive. Okay, and then all students can access, and instructor can facilitate and provide feedback. Okay, that's one of the ways of a learning activity that you can have here to build that connected presence, because you are actually trying to get these students to work out something together, right? So yeah, that's a good idea. I tell students they can always contact me anytime to ask questions or need more time to do tasks. Do you think that this one is more suited if I put it here? What do you think? I mean the person who actually got the idea. You can turn on your mic and interact with us. You can turn on your video as well. It will be good. Okay, what do you think if I put it here? Because I do think that, allowing the students, to contact you anytime is to tell them that you are there all the time to be there, right? The instructor presence, yeah? So I think it should be here, okay? If you disagree, you can also turn on your mic and say disagree, okay? Right, ask trivial questions every now and then, yeah? That's to ensure that they are still there, engaging, right? Okay, less word on slide. Don't force students to take notes. All right, less word on slide. Yes, I think that is also a very important strategy because we are talking about cognitive presence here. Means that we want to deliver the content so that the students can actually learn it easily. Okay, so when we say you want them to learn easily, means that the way you present the information has to be friendly to them. Okay, so if you have a lot of words, a lot of cluttered information on your visuals, that actually will give them a lot of cognitive load, yeah, which may affect their learning. Yes, I do agree that we have to be very careful in terms of our visual design. Okay, don't force students to take notes. Use interactive third-party apps such as Multimedia. Yes, I think that is also a very good strategy. Okay, especially when you talk about you want them to. Or any one of you who actually put this up, I would like to say more about it. Okay, anyone? You may just. Are they able to turn on their mic, Dr. Daya?
Yes, yes.
Yes, okay. Anyone want to add on that? I mean, I don't want to talk to the screen only.
We have comment from Dr. Amy. She said that she have no mic. So she said about the one you move to instructor present. I salah select just now what she mentioned.
Yeah, this one is it.
Yes.
Telling the students they can always contact me anytime.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. What is it that agree or disagree?
Agree.
Agree. Okay, great. Okay, agree. Okay, and then different physical qualities. I don't understand this. I really want that person to actually turn on the mic to explain. Anyone want to admit that you actually put up that particular idea? Different physical qualities. Maybe that's a very interesting idea, but I need some elaboration to understand it. Anyone, the person who put up that idea, or maybe others can interpret it? Anyone? Don't you think that's a challenge in life? Do you all face the same problem in your actual classes? Or should I pinpoint the name, call up the name?
Yes. Ask them to unmute, Prof.
The next time they won't join my sharing already. Okay, never mind. We just move on until you are ready. Okay. Social presence. Spend some time for ice breaking. Yeah, that's very good. I think that's a very good way to bring up the social presence. As for me, I always use some way. Either I use this the Flipgrid, yeah, or I use a Padlet, for example, to allow my students to introduce themselves, to talk about themselves, not just for the students to know their peers, especially if they are first year students, but also for me to know them. Okay, at least I can see how they look like, and knowing more about them. Okay, and I even introduce myself through the same platform. Okay, yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, public virtual space to share cliff notes like with like or star rating. Yeah, I think that is also a way to show that there is a space where people can interact. Even things like beyond the courses sometimes. If we allow that, that is fine as well. Try to remember names. Yes. Oh, this is very good. I do not know how you actually do it. Yeah. If you want to share, just turn on your mic and talk about that. Okay. But to me, the only way I think I can do it is when they actually came into my WhatsApp group. So I actually used the WhatsApp link and I provided in my course page in Elite. So when they actually join my WhatsApp group, the first thing that I would like them to give me is their name, their metric number. Okay. So why I need to have those? Because I really will record it in my phone. Okay. Their contact, so that every time they talk, every time they communicate with me, I actually know who they are. Okay. And I think calling names, yeah, knowing who they are is actually very useful, yeah, to correct that kind of presence, yeah. And sometimes here also it can be also be pulled to the instructor presence, yeah, because the example that I'm talking about just now is basically me trying to remember my student's name. All right, okay. Using breakout rooms, yeah, breakout rooms would be good, okay, where you can have more so-called closer interaction with the small group. Okay, so you don't talk to the whole group. So if you talk to the whole group a lot, then wouldn't want to respond. Okay, but if you go to the small group, then you actually can have the opportunity to talk to each of them and to see how they interact. And the breakout room can actually allow the group to have a chance to actually collaborate as well. Okay, I think that is a very good idea. Go online a few minutes before class time, interact with students who join early. Okay, that is also another way. Okay, but I would prefer, if you are referring to you as an instructor, I would prefer to pull it here under the instructor presence. What do you think? Why is it not
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, Prof. Chen.
Yeah. Oh, so does that come from you?
Yeah, that one. I do that with my students, and from the feedback that I receive from the student, they really like it because I go a few minutes earlier online, and many of them eventually try to come online early because they know I'm there. And I think they want to have a chat, because they are all alone. So they like this opportunity. So they come online and then they tell me things. So yeah, and the feedback that I got from them shows that they really like it. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Dr. Soba. Thank you so much for being the first one who actually turned on your mic and talked to me. I don't have the students' presence or participant presence. I don't feel that at the moment.
Maybe
Now
I
I
should
do.
on the camera and let you see my messy room as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for your support. You are the guru.
Okay.
You don't have to join my sharing anywhere. Okay, instructor presence, item student, okay, okay, that was what I told just now. Share external resources, what is that? External resources, what is REG? Maybe it's about sharing external resources regarding the courses using WhatsApp, right? Yeah, that could be one way. I think WhatsApp is really another good communication channel for us to actually engage with our students, yeah, to show our presence, yeah. So I do use it heavily actually. Scribble on slides, whiteboard using a Wacom pen, and etc. to explain. Are you talking about you scribbling, or are you talking about that you are taking a video showing that you actually using your pen writing on it to show that, you know, in the video itself, you really can allow your students to see you doing the scribbling?
Yes.
Maybe.
True. Yeah. I usually sometimes I use the pen to write on it to explain more. So and also on maybe a white screen or whiteboard. So
Yeah,
that will show that, you know, it's more
yeah.
more real lah, rather than just putting everything on the slide. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good strategy. So thank you so much, Prof. Chiu. Yeah, I do think that that's a very good strategy as well. Yeah. Combined with chats on WhatsApp. All right. Okay. Just now it's about WhatsApp. Yeah, I do agree with that. Interacting with individual students by messaging them or calling them when required. Yes, I think this is also very important. Yeah, where it also supports, like for example, the social emotional needs. Yeah, students with problems. You know, you message them. You actually call them personally, and they will usually very touched, yeah, with that kind of intervention. And you really can sometimes see the change that is happening to them just because of the little act from you. Okay, so I do agree that this is a very good strategy. Yeah, and then what else? We have wait for 1-2 minutes at the end of the lecture for students to ask questions. Yeah, basically means that if not mistaken, you mean that before the end of the lecture, your live session, you know, before you end the meeting, you actually allow, you know, a few minutes, you know, so that students will like ask questions. They are given the opportunities to do so, just like what is Dr. Soba is doing. Yeah, but you are doing it at the end of the class. Yeah, yeah, that's a very good strategy as well. Okay, what else? Yeah, others. My screen is a bit, how can I? What is written there? Okay. Make jobs related to the topics more often to attract them and to get responses. I'm not good at that. Yeah, if you're good at that, why not? Yeah. So which one do you think that it falls under? Is it unsure? I would say if you are making jobs, maybe it goes under instructor presence. If you are the one who are making jobs, or if you allow everyone to make jobs, you know, to be not so serious in your communication platform, for instance, then it will go under social presence. All right, so maybe it's under, since instructor presence is so long already, so I'm going to pull it to the social presence. Basically here, it also allows the students here to make jobs, not just you. So means that you have a platform that is not so serious here to allow that to happen. All right, thank you so much here for your participation. I think I get a lot of input from you all on this. Okay, so maybe I will just list out some of my ideas here that maybe you think that you can adopt, or maybe you think that you want to debate about it. You can always turn on your mind, right? So for connected presence, I would propose that we provide a clear and consistent structure that offers intuitive navigation. Yeah? So with the new e-lit, I found that the interface is much structured, right? So you can actually put a setting where you can allow the sections to be displayed not continuously, but according to the topics that you actually define. Okay, so this allows the students to have a much better structure of the overall content of your course, which I like it so much, and I think that will actually help the students to engage connectively. Okay, that's one thing. Apply the visual design principles that I mentioned just now. Okay, so I'm not going to repeat, but can apply some of those relevant one to your content. Provide an appealing, relevant, or challenging trigger. Okay, that one is to get them to engage connectively so that they will start the learning. Okay, once they see it as appealing, as relevant, as challenging, then they will start to engage connectively, right? Employ the brand-based learning strategies, the connective knowledge that I mentioned to you just now. Okay, employ those. Employ a pedagogy that is appropriate to the subject matter. Yeah, if you want to have cognitive presence, ensure that you know that content the strategies, the teaching strategies that you have chosen is appropriate to your content. Incorporate authentic activities that connect real-world relevance and content knowledge, and that will actually helps to create the connective presence as well. Relate the assignment to their real life, relate the assignment to their real context and example. Afford further exploration to seek for understanding and resolution to our problem means that you have to try to provide some kind of opportunities, for them to collaborate, for them to do reflections and things like that. All right, that will actually help them to build their knowledge, to cognitively engage to build their knowledge. Afford interaction. Try to encourage student-students interaction between you and the students. And also, if you have like quizzes, online quizzes and things like that, you are actually having some kind of student and system interaction, which will also help them to engage connectively. And of course, the list goes on by incorporating your ideas just now. All right. So as for social presence, some of my tips here would be students can use a video, maybe for self-introduction. I think some of you mentioned it as well. Students use video for giving feedback. Why is it using video can create the social presence? Because people can see the faces. So if you said that if live meeting a bit hard, for you to turn on the video, but it's pre-recorded, maybe they can do it. All right. So therefore, you can try to use that kind of techniques. Opportunities, like for instance, having discussion forum, chats and reflection and so forth, for students to share their feelings, their ideas and experiences. So a platform that is not so formal, but allow them to share about their feelings, their ideas, and even about their experiences, either related to the courses or not related to your course. Of course, it's much better if it's related to our course, but sometimes we think that it's relevant. You may want to create a small space that allow them to express whatever that is not very much related to their course. Right. Provide clear instruction and expectation for item 3, of course. That is important. A lot of time we have to provide clear instructions so that the thing will be done accordingly, and seek to know and empathize with students' learning conditions. That's the contextual knowledge, and adjust your learning design accordingly, right? And of course, the list goes on, based on the feedback or the input that you have just now. As for the instructor presence, some of the tips, maybe you can have a pre-recorded real-time video so that people can see you in person. If you do like a screen recording of your teaching video, maybe you want to show your faces sometimes, so that they can see that, oh, you are my lecturer, I can see you, that you're actually talking to me. You may want to consider that, But based on one of the studies that I did, they actually, for the different types of videos, and it was found that, if you have like a video that's showing you alone talking, like the talking head, without the slides of you talking like that, actually students do not have very good emotions. They don't really like that kind of video. So maybe we should reduce it, unless you look very, very beautiful, very awesome. then you can consider the option. All right, participation in collaborative activities or interactive delivery. Basically, it means that we try to participate in our students' collaborative activities. Like example, the idea on having the breakout rooms. I think that particular idea will allow us to be present in the collaborative activity and to show that we are there, right? And even like in the delivery, even I can't see you, but through the interaction that we have just now, I'm seeing that some participation from you, which basically I want to show that there is some kind of presence between me and you, all right? Provide timely and frequent responses and updates via your LMS or maybe through your WhatsApp or other social communication channels. I think that is also very important. To me, I always provide updates, especially for my undergraduate students, because undergraduate students, they do face problem where they do not know how to do time management. They do not have the self-directed learning skill, right? So a lot of time I give a lot of reminders, a lot of announcement and reminders and updates so that they know, within that particular week, what are the things they are expected to do and what are the things that they need to do for the upcoming weeks. So I actually give a lot of this kind of reminder, which I basically feel that they will feel my presence by doing so. And care about your students' well-being. I think that is also one thing that is very important, especially when you see the behavior of the student is not so normal. You can trace that by looking into the ELIP, right? For instance, in ELIP, you have the learning analytics. So you can look through the analytic graph, look through the reports of the activity to see students that require your attention, yeah? And to do some intervention on these students would be meaningful as well, yeah? To show that you are there, you care about them, all right? So that's about it. Now, lastly, okay, is to decide on the assessment mode. So the whole design will not be complete without the assessment. So here you got to decide on your assessment mode. Okay, finally you have to do that. Yeah, so there are two types of this assessment here. One is the synchronous, another one is the asynchronous. So asynchronous basically means that students will have more time. All right, usually. Most probably they will just download your questions, they will do it, they will try to accomplish your whatever task, and then they will upload it, right? So internet connection is not really a requirement here, okay? But synchronous will require a good internet connection during the time of assessment, okay? So contextual knowledge would be something that you may want to consider, okay, when you actually decide on the type of the assessment, okay? Because if you go for synchronous, it also means that you have to ensure that your students do have good internet connections for your synchronous assessment, okay? So this is an example. Of course, other type of knowledge that comes in, yeah? Certain type of content has to be assessed through synchronous, or maybe certain type of contents due to some requirement from some professional bodies. It has to be done through the synchronous way. Okay, so these are all the contextual knowledge that you need to be informed before you decide on what type of assessment that you need to go for. All right. So basically, the key takeaways for today's sharing, I'm talking about 7 points here. Okay, firstly, you want to start with your online learning design. You want to create something that is engaging. Firstly, you have to decide on your instructional mode. Okay, so this decision may be from you, maybe not from you. Okay, maybe it's decided from us, from other authority. Now, decide on the delivery mode. Okay, make a good decision by knowing the context of your conditions of the students, by knowing your content, and also how do you think the content will be best delivered. Okay, and make a decision on that. All right. Employ an appropriate instructional design model. This is just to guide you, yeah, to ensure you don't miss out certain aspect. Okay. So to me, the model that I like best is the CAMS design model. Okay. So because I think it's more general and it's more flexible and it's very suited for most contexts. Number 4, I would say that there is a need for you to think how can you bring the strategies, the teaching and learning strategy that you would like to have online. Okay, so how do you bring it from the face-to-face to the online implementation? So you got to map it with the right technological tools. Yeah, so sometimes the reverse will happen. Knowing the potential of the technological tools will actually inform you what kind of pedagogy that you can actually employ. Yeah, so in this case, I would say that both knowledge is actually very important. Okay, and then when you actually design the instructional messages, make sure you have this cognitive and affective knowledge here, where you try to make it appealing, you try to make it engaging by applying some of the visual design principles that I mentioned and audio design principles that I have mentioned as well. Okay, and tips number 6, yeah, consideration is to maintain the CSI. Okay, whenever you design it, think carefully, how can I incorporate C? How can I incorporate S, and how can I incorporate the I? Okay, try to incorporate some of this, yeah, in your learning design. Okay, and finally you have to decide on your assessment format. Okay, based on your content knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, contextual knowledge, and of course the technological knowledge as well. All right. So in a nutshell, I just want to summarize and end up. You will actually need to equip yourself, okay, with 6 different types of knowledge. Okay, mentioned here: technological, pedagogical, content, connective, contextual, and also affective. And you have to ponder carefully on how these different types of knowledge can be woven together or can be integrated, yeah, into a meaningful whole. Okay, this is the target here. All right. Yeah, for your specific context. I think that is what I want to conclude. Okay, you got to have all this kind of knowledge and try to achieve this target here in the middle. to integrate them nicely. Okay, I think that's all for my sharing. Thank you so much for your passion with me. So I will pass the session over to Dr. Daya.
Okay, so thank you, Prof, for the informative and insightful sharing. So I will open the floor for the question from the participants. So any question from the participants, you can ask directly to Prof.
Thank you very much for your insightful and for your meaningful sharing from Prof. And then I really interesting because you are providing full of content to us in order to giving awareness, actually awareness, because when you talk about TPAC, the theory, and then the element of the new invention from Prof. Chen itself, it's so interesting. I saw that you are combining the element of affective, because I'm not thinking on the affective element, but then it's quite interesting. So it might be you can explain a little bit, Prof, because the element effective, because we're dealing with the student who are human. So that I think the affective element is so important because it touches on the emotions of the students. So, but how as a lecturer, as an instructor, how can we touch the emotion in order to encourage them to connect to us? It's not only in terms of content, Prof, because I believe that if they have the interest in knowing something on our content, so they indirectly can have high attachment with us. But how can we connect with them with concern on the effective of the students? Prof, dapat
Okay.
tak? You get it? Macam mana kita, how can we
get
connect to the student, with the effective elements? That's all.
I think you are very interested in this particular domain because I think it is very related to your domain, to your specialization.
Yes,
And,
correct.
I do hope that you can add on to what I said because basically your knowledge here will add on more ideas to us on how we can do that kind of connection. So to me, effective here, there are two components as I mentioned. The first one is of course our students' emotion when it comes to online learning, which has nothing to do with our course content, all right? Which has nothing to do. That is their initial motivation, initial intention, and initial readiness here to actually get into the online learning. Okay, that's one thing. So to me, I think for me to tap into that, as I mentioned just now, the very first thing that I did is actually I did a survey. All right, I would like every student to actually come in to give me some information. And one of the information that I asked them is, what are the challenges that you are facing in your online learning? Okay, and I tell them that this form is only meant for my information. Okay, help me to design my learning and also to help them. Okay, so feel free to say anything. So, and I started to see them telling me about their condition. All right, some of them even said that I have to babysit as my part-time job. And some of them said, my internet connection is really frustrating because sometimes it's really down, and I cannot do anything. I cannot collaborate with my friends. So I think based on that information, because I just collected those information, I think the very first thing that I did is I mentioned, through the WhatsApp group and also through my live classes with them, and also later on I will use other means. I mentioned to them that those who really have this kind of problem, please text me personally. Okay, please tell me personally. Okay, if you think that the resources that I have provided to you, example the one that is in the elite, you have difficulty to access or you have difficulty to participate, please just let me know. Text me personally. Okay. Another thing that I think I would want to do is to text them personally as well, because I can already identify the students. So in advance, I actually can text them to know about their condition, to ask them about, their readiness, and to ask them, just to build up that relationship, so that whenever they have any difficulties, they do not have the rejection, or whatever, that they don't dare to actually approach me. I think that's the first thing that I can do, okay? And sometimes in my previous classes, I found that, some other students will also inform me of those troubles, they will also inform me like, these students that can never collaborate we get so frustrated because these particular students can never participate in our discussion because they didn't give the reason, but then they will start to talk about that, right? Then I start to approach the student. I start to understand more from the student who complain, and also I would like to understand more from that particular student that people complain, right? So from there, I'm trying to build the understanding. I'm trying to assist. I also try to tell the other member who actually made the complaint to have more empathy, especially when I found that that particular student is actually having some internet connection problem that really makes he or she cannot contribute to that work. Okay, so I also ask them to be more empathy to allow this person to have other kind of flexibility. So I'm teaching both sides as well, but actually to do that it requires my time. All right, it requires time and it requires your to be very so-called meticulous in knowing all these happenings, so that you can tackle one by one. Okay, so students are very happy actually because especially those who have problems, who even the one who voice a problem, because I'm trying to ensure that their emotions are taken care of, in that sense. And secondly is when I talk about this effective, it's more like in terms of the design of our learning material. Okay, so we want the design not to overload our students. We want to design our materials, like for instance, when I mentioned all the visual design principles, these are all the means where we can actually employ so that our students are not overloaded unnecessarily. Okay, or maybe sometimes we give resources, but we never filter the resources. We give a long video. Actually, what we want them to view is just that little 5 minutes, example. So these are all the things that maybe we have to think about the emotion of students when they are given those kind of materials. So this is also the effective knowledge. So that's the thing. But also would love to hear from Dr. Maslina, how from your point of view, you can support the students in terms of this effective, the emotion part. And maybe you can share with us. Sorry, I'm passing the ball back to you.
Yeah, I understand, Prof. Especially that's why I asking that question, because you know that our nature of classes, like counseling classes, that's dealing with more interaction. Because when we talk something, because we are not only dealing with the concept or theoretical part, but we are dealing with the skills part, practical part. So that's why I facing with the difficulties as well, Prof. In order to connect student with me as instructors, as well as within themselves as as a students. So that's why because when I design the learning material, I keep thinking how would student able to accept, especially practical part, so how should I deliver the information in order to make student understand, and then make student what we call have connection with the instructor. Like me, when I teach a group counseling, theory and application counseling, I always keep thinking, how can I connect in terms of content and emotion itself? Because in order to encourage students to connect, they have to understand the content. So if they don't understand the content, how can they connect with the instructors? That's why I keep thinking, Prof, because like Prof said, if they have the problem, I keep text them, and then I ask them if they have the problem, and then text me personal, and then I did similar like Prof said just now. But in terms of the content, Prof, I understand that as an instructor, I able to cater in terms of the effective element in terms of emotions in order to know their emotion. However, I don't know how to connect the content with the the understanding, the understanding of the student, because they have to understand two things at the same time. You get what I mean, Prof? That is my difficulties. That's why bila Prof maklum tu saya boleh faham lah. Maksudnya I have to adjust my learning material as well. So in order to ensure the student connect, when they understand, they're able to connect. That is my belief lah, Prof. If they understand, they're able to connect. Then if they don't understand, I think it's a bit difficult for them to connect with the instructor. Okay ke Prof? That is my idea lah. Sebab I think kalau nak ada connection between the student, we have to ensure the student understand first lah. But maybe the connection in terms of doing activities, that is another part of connection between student and instructor lah. Sebab saya fikir kalau dalam bidang saya ni, dia kena ada to that there is a other level of understanding tu, barulah dia akan dapat gist of the content dalam pengajaran tu.
Are you talking about the challenge because of your content itself, which is into counseling, and you basically requires that I do not know the effective
Yes,
side
the element of concept, yeah. Sebab dalam content, in our content, we have the element of effective, Prof. So that's why I said, yeah, that's why lah. I think we also having the challenges sebab macam mana nak element effective tu, bagaimana kita nak sampaikan through online,
That one I can't answer you because I'm not from your area.
That's the thing, Prof.
Subject matter. So maybe
but your sharing just now give me some idea lah, Prof. So that because I think like Prof said, I think I need to give a simple content as well as providing them with the detailed content of the things that I make simplify. So is it okay ke Prof? Macam if let's say I provide them with the simple ideas and then I assist them with the other material which explain details on that particular things. Is it okay ke Prof?
It depends on the content that you're referring to. I think that it's suited for the content that you're going to deliver to them. I think why not? I mean that's just a strategy, yeah.
Yeah,
so
strategy.
The pedagogical knowledge is really related to your content. Okay, so only the subject matter will actually know what is the best way to deliver that part because you know the content, the subject matter itself, So you can understand the pedagogical knowledge in general, but then the person who decide on which strategies to use will be you as the content expert, Yeah, so people like me from different areas may not be able to advise you on that.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Yeah,
there is another question, Prof.
Yeah.
From Dr. Justina. What are the example of pedagogical knowledge in online learning?
Okay. As I mentioned just now, I think in my slide just now, I do feel that a lot of the face-to-face strategies can be implemented online. Okay. So if you say you want to do PBL face-to-face and now you want to turn it online, you actually can do it. Yeah, but you need to know how to map it. All right, by knowing what are the main processes that are actually happening within that PBL. Okay, and then you got to map it with the right technological affordances. You have to think of what are the technological affordances that will allow those activities, that processes to be realized, So a lot of the strategies that I mentioned, I think I couldn't tell you everything here within this short sharing, but you can refer to the webinar that I have shown you just now. Okay, you can refer to that webinar to know more about how you can actually map it online. Okay, so like POPBL, I think you can do it as well. Even case-based learning, inquiry-based learning, you can also do it. Okay, it's the way that you design it will be different. Okay, so if you have inquiry-based learning, then you will start with a lot of inquiries. That means that you have to provide the technological platform to allow the inquiry process to happen, right? So That's examples of how you do the mapping. Yeah? So I would say that a lot of the strategies that you employ face-to-face can actually be implemented online. Yeah? Unless you are talking about some like practical skills that really require the direct manipulation, the psychomotor skills, that one is very different. Okay, so if you think that it cannot be replaced, then it definitely cannot be replaced. Okay, there's no way for you to replace. Yeah, so if you by watching the demonstration is not enough to actually develop that kind of practical skill, that means you cannot do that, right? You really need that person to work up with the actual things, yeah? Then only the knowledge or skills can be transferred, okay? And that part, still you have to go for face-to-face, yeah? I mean, I'm talking about practical skills and things like that.
Prof, another comment from Dr. Jamaya. Prof, can I say that your sharing today tap on all the TPEX knowledge? I think so. She said, really appreciate the great sharing.
Oh, yeah, thank you. What is the question she wants to?
Can I say that your sharing today tap on all the TPEX knowledge?
Yeah, I would say that I initially okay. Actually, when I worked this out, it's really based on my experience. So I came up with all those considerations, and also when I see through the knowledge, I try to combine the consideration and the knowledge I have. I found that actually I can explain it better by using the model that I mentioned just now. The TPEC model with a lot of C's. All right. So that particular model can help you to have a better understanding, so that at the end of the session, even you cannot remember a single thing, maybe you still can remember that feedback kind of thing, right? So that that when you want to start your online learning design, don't forget this kind of knowledge that you need to have. So yeah, that's why I stick to that model to help me to structure the whole sharing. Yes.
So Prof, ada lagi tambahan. So Prof, can I say that each of the instructor have to have like preferred learning model in order to design our content, our assessment, our evaluation?
Are you talking about the instructional design model, or are you
Yes,
talking about the ID model? All right.
yes.
I think it's good if you are not from education background. It's good to have a model to actually guide that process so that you won't miss out important elements. That is my advice. Yeah. For people like Dr. Soba and people like me, okay, I think we already have the knowledge, everything here. So we don't really have to go step by steps, to look through everything, because we know what we are doing, right? So basically when we design, we already consider all these different considerations, yeah? But if you are not in education and you're new to it, and then I think this model, any of the models you can choose, but I prefer you go for CAMS model, but if you go for PPL, you may go for Maros. Or if you want to search for other models, do Google, okay, and find out more other models, pick one model and use that model to guide the process. I think it would be more structured if you do it that way. Then you won't miss out important elements. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank
I
you
hope
for
I
the
answered.
informative. Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you, Prof. I pass to Dr. Dayang.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much. I think we will end our session today. Okay. So we hope that all the participants will find this very valuable for all of you to develop your own teaching portfolio. So we hope that also you will be getting some inspirations to conducting your online teaching and learning. Okay. So thank you once again for your time and also participation in this workshop, and see you in our next workshop.